In two of these videos presented on Archaix in the past, it was shown that Gobekli Tepe cannot be as old as claimed, and that it shares many features with Easter Island in South America for the period of 2500 BC to the Ogygian Deluge, 1687 BC. This is the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. The animal art of Gobekli Tepe is of a world that does not exist in the present day Turkey, meaning the barren rocky landscape of the region today is not the lush tropical environment that once flourished there. So Gobekli Tepe is antediluvian, but the bird cult effigies, the squarish pillars of men with long, thin fingers, and the megalithic aspect of Gobekli Tepe is found on the other side of the world, at Easter Island. Further, the triple handbag motif on a huge pillar at Gobekli Tepe is identical to the handbags found in Sumerian, Babylonian, Assyrian, Hittite, South American, Ecuadorian art, dating from 2500 BC to the Ogygian Deluge in 1687 BC. These facts prove Gobekli Tepe is not 10,000 years old, as Graham Hancock and others continually assert. Hancock's childish attempt to claim that a scorpion relief indicates a zodiac sign is ludicrous. This is what a sociologist would do at an archaeological site. It's dumb because the zodiac did not exist as we have it today until about 300 BC. A 10,000 or even a 5,000-year-old relief of a scorpion could never have represented a zodiac sign that had not even yet been invented. Here on the screen are two videos presenting the evidence that the zodiac is not even old, but invented by the Greeks, as admitted by the Greeks, the Ptolemies, the Egyptians, and Vedic scholars agree that the zodiac was not old at all. In fact, the recent discovery of Gobekli Tepe being a massively expansive complex now collapses the ridiculous proposition that Gobekli Tepe was used for ceremonial or religious purposes. In the Archaix analysis, we recognize that humans thousands of years ago had the same basic needs as humans today. Therefore, applying this reasoning and eliminating all of the adult fantasy, the Facebook educated garbage attached to this genre of research, I offer you these amazing facts. Fact. Under present-day Turkey lies 59 underground cities. The first was found in 1962, Derinkuyu. They are ancient, so old that they cannot be dated, but Hittite graffiti in the upper levels demonstrates that the Hittites after the flood from 18 to 1600 BC did not even know about the lower levels in these underground facilities. Fact. A local tradition in Turkey concerns a King Anakos of ancient Phrygia, who before a disaster protected his people by leading them into underground refuges that he prepared. Fact. The oldest archaeological sites in Turkey are the Tepe ruins, like Gobekli Tepe. Fact. Gobekli Tepe site was not used for domestic living. This is admitted by the archaeologists who are excavating the site. Fact. The large circular enclosures at Gobekli Tepe are built with massive stone pillars arranged in a T shape. Fact. Pillars in virtually all ancient architecture were used to support weight. Fact. The circular enclosures of Gobekli Tepe lack hallways or clear connections between these structures, which raises interesting questions about how people moved from area to area, from circular enclosure to circular enclosure if they're not connected. Fact. Excavators are adamant that Gobekli Tepe was buried deliberately, but this is merely because the circular enclosures were actually built into the ground's surface. Fact. By visualizing that Gobekli Tepe was originally built into the ground surface, answers for why archaeologists are convinced that Gobekli Tepe was deliberately buried. This is a key to understanding what the architecture was used for. Fact. If Gobekli Tepe's circular enclosures were built into the ground, then this is why there are no hallways, there are no corridors connecting the enclosures. People walked on the surface of the ground and looked down into the circular enclosures. Fact. Some archaeologists have proposed that there might have been temporary or perishable structures to get into the circular enclosures, such as wooden ladders that have not survived. Fact. That ladders were known to the locals is easily proven in that Catalhuyuk and the other Huyuk sites have yielded forth the remains of ladders and architecture that required the existence of ladders. Fact. Many of the Gobekli Tepe circular enclosures have two central pillars as a center of focus. Fact. The pillars at Gobekli Tepe are elaborately decorated with carved animals, abstract symbols, and possibly human figures, which may have had cosmological or ritual significance. Fact. Whenever archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians cannot decipher the function of ancient architecture, they always default to a standard explanation that it was for ritual, ceremonial practices, and religious services. That's their default answer for the unknown. Fact. Recent discovery that Gobekli Tepe is actually a part of a much more expansive Tepe site, still unexcavated, critically injures the for ceremonial purposes explanation by the academies. Gobekli Tepe is vast, and this serves to show that the circular enclosures had utilitarian purpose, not connected to religion. Now, combining all of these applicable facts leads us to an obvious conclusion. Gobekli Tepe was not a religious center, but built by a people who emerged from underground after a cataclysm and built their domiciles away in the Tepe sites. Away from the Tepe sites like Catalhuyuk and the other mini Huyuk sites, which were domiciles. Gobekli Tepe is no different than the ancient bathhouses of Babylon, later Rome, and in the Americas of ancient India, Mohenjo-Daro, where pillars supported reed, thatch, or wooden roofs over the water-filled enclosures providing shade. The layout and architecture of ancient bathhouses and the three-dimensional bas-relief animals and artistic pillars would have enhanced the aesthetics of the pools. The three-dimensional animals and pronounced reliefs also allowed for footing for people floating in water to push themselves up to get out of the pools. These carvings would have also been seen very well in clear water. Open sky baths built into the ground have been found all over the ancient world. Mohenjo-Daro, the Near East, Rome, and the architectural styles have little changed. The pillar motif has lived on despite the passage of millennia, and many baths also had elaborate reliefs of animals like Gobekli Tepe, and we cannot dismiss the fact that many of these cistern-like circular enclosures would not even been used for baths. Only some of them would have been for that utility. Others could have been fish farms or lobster farms, crawdad farms. They could have been all farms for all kinds of animals to provide a population in the Huyuk sites with a food source. In fact, in an astonishing parallel, the Kivas of ancient America fit the same series of listed facts on Gobekli Tepe. Kiva sites were not used for domestic living. The Kivas are large circular enclosures. The Kivas have pillars and platforms for pillars. Kivas don't have corridors or halls connecting the circular enclosures. Kivas were built into the ground and not merely on top of it. Kivas had to be excavated. Kivas had ramps and ladders, according to archaeologists. Some kivas are decorated with animal and symbol art. Archaeologists blindly claim kivas were for ceremonial purposes. Again, falling back to that default. Some ancient kivas, especially larger ones like the Great Kiva at Chaco Canyon, were adorned with murals or carvings that depicted religious or cosmological themes, including depictions of animals, nature, and spiritual symbols. The architectural features of the kivas exhibit evidence of long gone wood thatch roofs on pillars over the circular kivas. But the greatest link between the Kivas and Gobekli Tepe is what the Native Americans of North America believed about these sites. Many Native American cultures, particularly the Hopi and the Pueblo, believe that Kivas represent a connection to the underworld from which their ancestors emerged. In the floor of many kivas, a small hole called a sipapu symbolizes the place where their ancestors emerged from the underworld before the kivas were built, representing the portal through which the first people came into this world from the world below. So, despite all of the architectural similarities, the tradition of ancient Americans that connects the Kivas to Gobekli Tepe is that these were built by their ancestors who came up from the underworld a very long time ago. So if you want to be properly educated about Gobekli Tepe and not fall for the Facebook educated garbage of Billy Carson, for the sociologist who's trying to deceive the world into believing into a false version of history named Graham Hancock, you may want to check out my 4 prior videos that cover these topics. Gobekli Tepe, Fingers of the Bird Cult. Gobekli Tepe, a 70-year-old lie became a 12,000-year-old truth. Tetrabiblos, Zodiac Code of Ptolemy, and Fall of the 13th Sign, History of the Zodiac. All 4 links to those videos are in the description box.